Hey, Time Clock Killers, and welcome to another edition of the Time Clock Killers podcast, where we educate, inspire, and encourage new and aspiring entrepreneurs to clock out for good.
I'm your host, Nathan.
And I'm your co-host, Kara. Let's jump right in.
Hey, welcome to another edition of the Time Clock Killer podcast. We are on episode number 6. Yay, us. We definitely took a break last week because of the craziness that was going on in Texas. And I'm actually here with my lovely co-host,
Kara.
She's back. She has taken a hiatus for a little while. Kara, can you tell the people why you've taken a hiatus?
Why have I taken a hiatus? I thought you just decided to, interview other people.
Oh, yeah. Well,
so
anyway.
There's no reason for me to be on.
So, as you guys know, we are actually located in Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth to be exact. Our thoughts and prayers go out to all of the families that were caught up in this snowstorm, people that died. I think I read a story today in Abilene where this older guy actually ended up freezing to death in his own bed. So, that stuff is absolutely unheard of.
That one, it was a man, he froze to death in his recliner here in, the DFW area.
Yeah, no, that's crazy.
I will say I've been through horrible thunderstorms with tornadoes. I've been through my share of hurricanes. And this was my second snowstorm. And it was I would say, one of the worst storms that I've been a part of.
Why is that, though?
I think that with hurricanes, we have warning. You're told to evacuate. With the snowstorm we had in Atlanta when they had the snowpocalypse, we had a little bit of warning. But once you got into safe shelter, you were okay. This felt like you were a sitting duck and there was absolutely nothing you could do. If they decided to take the power away from you, and you didn't have heat, it was crazy.
Yeah, and some people were without water.
No drinkable water. You can't.
No drinkable water.
To not bathe is one thing, but you can't go without drinkable water for long. And then they're telling you, well, boil it. But if you have an electric stove and you don't have electricity, how are you going to boil the water?
Stupid. Yeah, thankfully, we were actually able to, our electricity never got cut off. Our water never got cut off. The only thing we kind of suffered was the water wasn't good, so we had to boil our water, and we have a little boiler maker that we boil coffee or teas with, so we were actually able to help a few families. So shouts out to God for allowing us to not actually have to go through some stuff that what other people had to go through. But like I said, our thoughts and prayers go out to the families that were caught up and
were affected. People who, I know it was a lot of pipes busting.
Pipes busted. Yeah.
So people having to relocate and deal with that even after the storm has been over. They're still it's going to be months they're dealing with that.
So, with that being said, what are some lessons that you learned going forward of how we're going to prepare going forward? And this is some things to kind of give to you guys to kind of just be mindful of, because if 2020 taught us anything, then it taught us we have no idea on what's gonna go on. Me and Kara was talking about it the other day. So give the people maybe 4 or 5 things that they can go out and buy immediately in case this ever happens again.
So like you said, basically preparation. I realized that we were not prepared. I did not know that, I thought you only didn't have electricity if you didn't pay for it. I didn't know it was even possible to run out of electricity. Or like here, we live in North Fort Worth on the line of Keller, and they literally ran out of water. Like they were having to get water from Fort Worth, and it had to be like ported over to them somehow. And the electricity in Texas, we were having to get it like somehow sent from Mexico. So I definitely have taken a few strolls on the internet looking for how to be prepared, and I've looked at straws that basically make any water drinkable. They have some kind of filters in them. That's something that we will be investing in. Some lanterns that are probably kerosene based, to where even if like there's a shortage of batteries, we can have those. Kind of taking it, that's definitely old school. I looked at butane burners, like for cooking things. And something else I looked at was canning. Looking at how you can kind of can products and they can stay good for quite some time. Just having some things on hand. Yeah,
Generators.
generator definitely.
What kind of like blankets for not like your normal blankets, but ones that
They have
actually,
emergency blankets.
yeah.
They're these like foil looking blankets, but they help generate heat. They literally perform the same way foil does for your food, and they look like foil, but they're actually blankets. And they're called emergency blankets. You can get them on Amazon. We got those for homeless people a few years ago when we made bags for homeless people. And those are things that you want to keep in your car because it literally could save your life.
Excessive waters, like if you go without water for like 3 or 4 days, like
You can't go without water for
it's a
that long.
wrap.
Yeah.
So make sure you pile up on, stockpile on, a lot of waters, not just for drinking, but as some cases you would need some waters to flush your toilets if you are staying at the house and you don't have that. So hopefully we don't have to do that again. But these are just all precautions to take that, like
Things
we
to
was talking
consider.
about it. Like I think Americans, we get a little comfortable, and then we look at people who are what we call preppers and be like, yo, like they going to the extreme with this stuff. But at this point, I don't really consider anything to be too extreme. So,
Yeah, you never know what's gonna happen in
do
these
your
times.
do your research and figure out what's best for your family. Figure out what package is best for your family. If you're out and you're stuck, like figure out like what your car always needs to have, for you guys to be prepared, whether it's water, snacks, blankets, just always kind of be playing offense. You don't want to get caught playing defense when you're talking about snowstorms and stuff to that nature. So anyway, now that we have gotten that out of the way, so how has life been? You have been a pretty familiar voice on the first couple podcasts. We haven't heard from you in a little while. So, how's things been going for you?
I think things have been going pretty good. I feel like I need a break from the break we had last week. I feel like that was the longest week that I've had in a very long time, and I need a break from that break. I read a meme and it said, "The next time I have a week off, I don't want to spend it trying to stay alive." And that's how I feel. I need another week off, but one to like relax, not one where like I'm on edge, because thank God he like kept us through that and we didn't lose power or electricity or anything. But I was anyone who knows me know that like I can get in these. I am like the most worrisome person ever when it comes to certain things, and I've gotten better. But that situation, when I read at 4 o'clock in the morning that they had just randomly started turning people's power off and it wasn't coming on after 30, 45 minutes, and then people started saying like, hey, it's been like 13 hours, it's been like 2 days, I was definitely concerned. And I have this really sweet spot in my heart for like people who are homeless. So I was like really concerned about them and like hoping that people got off the streets. It's a lot of homeless people in Dallas
Mm-hmm.
and Fort Worth. So I was really hoping, and like tent communities that I literally drive by like multiple times throughout the week. So um, my nerves were completely shot last week, you know. So
And shout out to my boy Kobe. Uh, our phones, that's another thing that people don't
oh,
tell
we
you. Like,
didn't,
our
yeah.
phone service was also like shot to hell too. So, shout out to Kobe. He was calling and calling. Man, brother pulled up in the snow, just
Slid over here.
slid over here just to check up on us. So, man,
Yeah,
shout
definitely.
out to Kobe, Krista, man, y'all, good looking out. So anyway, for this week's podcast, I kind of want to touch on a saying that we kind of have in the black community, and it is called the crab in a bucket mentality, or the crab in a bucket syndrome. So I posted a post that said, um, the only way to save a sinking ship is to like save your ship first, and then once your ship is saved, then you can bring people on who you want to come on board. And I don't think it's a foreign concept, because we kind of see that kind of activity in the Bible when you talk about Noah. Everybody, God told Noah to build a ship, and once he built the ship, and that water started coming, everybody was not able to go on the ship, even though it was probably room for like a ton more people to kind of go on the ship. You know what I mean? But he built the ship. So I think that we have this concept of, I say that to say, we have this concept of this whole crab in a bucket mentality that I'm starting to not necessarily believe in anymore. And let me tell you why. Because I believe that crabs are, when you talk about the black community as a whole, um, you have like different levels. You have like high class, middle class, low class, and like really low class. And so we need to start saying, okay, these crabs, what class are they in? Because I don't think high class people are inside of a bucket trying to pull all the other high class people down, right? So if we're only talking about a certain class or a certain group of people, I would like to kind of pinpoint on that concept. So it's my belief that when we speak about crabs in a bucket, you're speaking about a bucket full of crabs. We'll just say bucket full of people. Now, in this bucket full of people, they are all trying to get out of the bucket. Um, these aren't all, usually when we hear crab in the bucket, we like to associate it with bad people. And that's not the case. Like, these are some good people. Some of them are bad, some of them are good. So you just get a variety of everybody, but they're drowning, right? So what happens whenever you're in a pool and you can't swim and you start drowning? You start trying to pull and reach and grab anything that you can to pull yourself up, right?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter what you grab onto, you're going to try and grab something to pull yourself up out of the water. I don't care if it's your kid. You feel me? Like, I don't care if it's your kid. If you're drowning and you see them little legs like springing up, you're going to be like, okay, let me pull let me just
Just
tug on her
grasping
right
for something,
quick
yeah.
to see if I can like at least get above water and maybe I'll be okay. That doesn't necessarily make you a bad person. It's just human instincts, because we are
Survival, yeah.
innately built to survive, right? So we've been conditioned in our community to believe this thought process of, and we hear it. I hear it all. We've heard it all the time, man. This old crab in the bucket mentality. That's why can't nobody get nowhere. And I don't necessarily believe that that's true. I believe that people are trying to get somewhere in the state of being where they're at. They're drowning. So anything or anybody that looks like a floaty or looks like something that can help them come just up a little bit to get above water, like they're going to pull on that, right? So what are your thoughts up to this
So
point?
I guess I am on the opposing side of that. I do agree that it exists, but I don't necessarily think people are bad. But I definitely believe it exists. And
In
so,
what terms though?
in your example with swimming, within the lifeguard community, they always have to have something when they go and try to rescue someone. Because if that person, that's why they throw things out to you. If that person tries to latch on to the lifeguard, like I've seen where they're told to like literally punch them so they get off of them because they will both then drown.
For sure.
So that I think it's the same exact thing, and that's like a literal example of what it looks like. And so in your meme, right, it got to the point of you have to basically save yourself before then
100%.
you can go and save other people. I think unfortunately, because everyone has said like, oh, crab in a bucket mentality, when you do come from the bottom and you're trying to get to the top, oftentimes in our community we feel like we got to go back and save everybody else, or my family, or my family and my friends, or anybody that I know, because when we were low, right, all we heard was people get to a certain point and they don't even come back and help the community.
Yeah, yeah. They don't come back. They don't come back to the hood, man.
Yeah,
They didn't got
but
to.
maybe they haven't gotten like to fully where they need to be in order to come back
Well,
and help.
that's the point that I'm trying to get to. Like, if I'm a crab, right, and we're using animals, but if I'm a person who have been down in a place, and it's not just physical, it's mentally, and if you can think your way out of those situations, and if I just barely get, and we see it all the time, you got ball players that make millions and millions of dollars, and like after a few years they are broke. And I don't think it's because it's a lack of money management. It's also, you got managers that are stealing their money because they believe that just because somebody is in a suit or looks a certain type of way, like they should be trustworthy. Yeah. That's also a mentality that we have been taught that's honestly like really bad also. But they go back into a place or into their old neighborhood, and they got Junebug asking to, man, can you invest in this car wash? Boom. So he forks over $200-$300 to Junebug. Junebug ain't never ran a business a day in his life. He just got a good idea, right? So boom, he gives Junebug $200,000-$300,000. That ends up being absolute total failure. You got your management asking you to give them X amount of money so that they can invest your money, like while you're hooping. Well, then they take your money, invest it into these very ridiculously risky stocks or risky plays, and then they end up losing millions and millions of dollars. Then you got your mama that you gotta buy a house for. You got your sisters and your brothers that you gotta look out. After your auntie needs something, you got cousins.
Somebody
you
got
nephews.
Medical expenses. Yeah.
You got a lifestyle that you have built for yourself that you have to uphold. So, like, you are 1 year removed from like the ghetto.
And I
You
think you
you
go
you one
back.
two years removed from the
Yeah.
hood. Like there is no possible way. Like, and I believe that these executives and these owners, these people know the statistics, y'all. Like they know if I get this Negro $30 million, it is very highly that it's going he by the end of his career, man, he's not gonna have nothing left over. Like nothing left over. Um so they know the statistics, of not just the players, but they go to the communities to recruit them. So they see their mama, and all they got Mama Bell, not Mama Bell. Shout out Denzel, but Mama, I see your son being able to make it to the NBA. Now, Mama has been living in poverty her whole entire life, and they see NBA and they see money, dollar signs. That's all it takes. So when you're only 1 or 2 years removed from poverty, like for real, and then you try to go back, like, and you have not had the wisdom or the knowledge or the years or the experience to actually be able to like build your wealth, like it is a very, very, very high possibility that you will get pulled back into that situation to where you start to live, your life starts to become back to how it was. And so now you can look and say, man, it's just a crab in a bucket mentality. When I got my money, everybody just wanted something. What you think?
Yeah, I definitely think that. I think that we have to, number one, we have to begin making wealth building a household conversation.
Priority.
Yeah, it has to be within our community. No more just go and get a job, get secure. Like that, I was looking at someone had a birthday and they turned 50, and they had one of those posters where it said, when the year you were born, this is how much milk costs, this is how much a house costs, this is how much college costs. And I was looking at that and I was baffled. Like, a house costs $30,000. A car costs, it was like a few grand. But now you're gonna get a car for 30,000, and that's not even like a top of the line car.
That's a Honda Accord.
Yeah, houses cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. You're not about to get no house for not a livable house for $30,000.
Yeah. You get you one, but it's gonna be
It ain't livable. I mean, you ain't gonna have no walls.
yeah, you got to build your walls.
So
You got to build your walls.
So yeah, I think that we have to start making that conversation that we're having with our kids, that we're educating ourselves on, so that we can educate our kids and our family members. I am a huge proponent for. I think it solves this whole entire issue, and that is making sure, like, the Bible talks about if you give a man a fish, like, he can eat for one day. But if you teach them how to fish, like, he can continually eat. And so I'm a huge
Is that the
proponent.
Bible?
Right?
I don't know. Is that a scripture?
I'm pretty sure that's the scripture in the Bible.
Pretty sure you heard that from
It might be a Negro proverb.
Dr. Dre or somebody.
It might be a Negro proverb, actually.
Yeah, that might be a Negro
Is
proverb.
it not in the Bible?
I don't know. We gotta look it up.
We do have to
Finish
look
talking,
it up.
I'll look it up.
Anyways, but the point is that, I'm a huge proponent for teaching everybody, building up people in our circle. I even do it with my kids. Our kids want a lot of stuff. They literally think money grow on trees. Bradley seen a money tree in the store and like wanted to buy it, and was coming home and asking Google what it did, because she thought like money was gonna grow on it. Money does not grow on trees. And so it's all about educating people around you who just may be ignorant and naive to not knowing about generational wealth and how you can build it. But teaching people like how to make money, and how to not just make money but generate wealth, and that last.
So that's definitely a nigga verb.
Okay.
That is not in the Bible.
Okay, cool. Well, we learned
That's a
something.
that's a nigga verb. Yeah, it's not in the Bible. But to your point, we sit and talk about generating wealth, and to be transparent, we don't know how to generate wealth.
Yeah.
We don't know anybody that knows how to
Well, I
generate
think we're
wealth, like for
learning.
real.
Like
But
we've.
we're learning.
Yeah.
But that's the point of a crab in a bucket mentality. If I'm learning about something and I go to try and teach somebody what I'm learning, like, and they be like, nah, bro, I'm not really, you know what I'm saying? You be like, ah, bro, like, he hating on me. Nah, bro, like, you don't know what you talking about yet. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with what she was saying. Don't get out of the hood. And when I say get out, I mean actually like be removed 10 times over, right? As crazy as it might sound, and I understand we want to go reach the people, touch the people. I'm 100% okay with that. But some of us need to be removed 10 times over. Like before we go back and try and teach and reach everybody else, because it can start to turn into a situation where people got a bunch of ideas. You know what I mean? They really do. And if you are like their avenue, basically like their Bank of America, because they won't be able to go get no loan now. They won't be able to do any of this stuff that they actually will actually have to do on their own. So you are the Bank of America. And when you go to Bank of America, it is stipulations and requirements before you even, man, don't even come in here asking for no loan.
Yeah.
Like, unless you have your stuff in order. Like, and the only way the bank is going to give or lend money to anybody is if they have a checklist of things in order so that they can actually feel comfortable with being able to get their money back. And I believe, like, in order to eradicate this concept of crabs in a bucket, we need to have our stuff in order, like for real. And B, in order for somebody to get anything from us in that capacity, we need to have a checklist of things in order for you to be able to come and ask for certain things, right? Like I was talking to a Muslim guy, and he said the only way that like that particular community, not all of them, but where he was at, gives money is if they fill out a packet and are able to like show why you need this money. Like, I don't think our people are in need of more money. You know what I mean? Like, we're in need of education, but not like school, not Harvard, like actually like knowledge about things that we actually want to go do. For example, in order for like the like say just in reference to the crab, if I'm a crab and I got out the bucket and I see, you know, another person trying to, hey man, I want to open up a car wash. Like, one of the things that that particular uh, crustacean need to ask is, brother, what do you know about the car wash industry? Right? And then, oh man, I know blah 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 blah. But then when you talk about business, you gotta ask, okay, what do you know about employees? What do you know about taxes? What do you like? You have to like, what do you know of? It's not just the car industry. It's about, that's like the easy part, but it's everything around it that it takes to operate something like that. So I think something that's even better that we can do is put like that person in, you know, courses. Hey man, I'll buy you a $5,000 course for you to take, in order for you to know every aspect about what you're trying to get into. Like, that's teaching somebody how to fish.
Yes, but here's where you also run into a problem. You have people who they don't want that. I ain't ask you for no course. I asked you for $250,000 to start this. I don't want to take no course. And then you spend your money on the course. Like, that's not what they wanted. And so I think that has to do with the crabs in a bucket mentality. But I do think we need to take a step back and look at, like, that's education. Like you said, it's not the traditional education that we've been told we need. But now that we're older, I think you and I have discovered, like, in order to build wealth and wealth that lasts for generations, the education that we were brought up being told like you need
It's
is,
dead.
yeah, that's not necessarily it.
It's
Like,
dead.
that's a tiny portion of what's gonna get you to where your kids are reaping the benefits of what you're doing today.
Well, and I don't even think our brains can comprehend what that looks like for your kids, your kids, your kids to be able to live off of something that you've done and created in this lifetime.
Well, we can't comprehend it because can you live off of something that, your
Great grandfather
yeah,
or grandmother
it's
did?
dead. No. I look at, my grandmother, she worked in the printing industry for like 2 decades. I can't walk up in there and be like, my grandma laid the groundwork for me. No, but Mr. Becker, the owner of that company, like, his kids can walk up in there and, get a job or get some money or, whatever. But there's ownership in that. But we didn't have ownership in that because we were told you get you a good job, you stay there, you build good relationship, you pour into your 401k.
Well,
No,
and this is
it's not wise. It's not the
is
wisest thing anymore for us to do.
this is some homework for you guys to do, because I've done it, she's done it. Look up billionaire families and tell me what you see. Like, you see U-Haul. You don't even know the families or what were the names of these people. Like, you see U-Haul, you see Walmart, you see pharmaceutical companies, you see Johnson and Johnson. Who else did we see? You see
It was Johnson and Johnson, and I think it was SC Johnson.
SC Johnson. Like, there is so many
like families,
brands
yeah,
that we see today that are actually family
Rockefeller,
owned,
of course.
like, to where it makes sense. And this is the thing, like, some of those were started in the 1800s. Like, we're talking about 1800s, and that business is still being carried on today in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand like what we've been through. When you talk about slavery, you talk about Jim Crow, you talk about what's the other one?
Civil rights.
No, it's Jim Crow, slavery, the Willie Lynch letter. We could go on and on about the oppression of our people. But what I'm saying is, let's start looking at, like, wealth building, and not just, the only way you're gonna know about wealth is if you study it. Who is wealthy? Like Sam Walton, that family is wealthy. That's wealth. So then you gotta take a step back and start looking at, okay, well, what am I doing? What can I do in order to do something like that for my family? You know what I mean? And it's gonna have you start thinking about, okay, I'm going to work, I'm clocking in. That, man, let me tell you, that dies with you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care. You don't have to be an entrepreneur, but your job that you're working dies with you.
Yep. Or when you get fired.
You can't pass that on.
Nope.
So all this talk about everybody an entrepreneur, do you want me to change the word? You don't want me to say entrepreneur? Like, do you want me to say, is everybody not a person that wants to leave something behind for their kids? Like, we can just substitute the word entrepreneur for leave something for your kids. You got to do something
Ownership.
outside of that job.
Yeah.
You got to.
Well, you just need to have ownership in whatever you're doing. If you are a nurse, right? And you love the nursing field, absolutely nothing wrong with that, but you want to have some ownership in it that you can pass down. Maybe you start like one of those little businesses where people get the IV drips.
Yeah, for sure. Like
Or
hydration or yeah.
yeah, but maybe you start something. You can still use what you love and what you went to school for, your career. Like, do something. My grandmother, like I said, she worked in that industry for 20 years in the printing industry, and there was this one press machine that she ran, and she knew when it broke down, she knew how to fix it. Nobody else there knew how to fix that machine. Now, when the printing industry, of course, started to decline, my grandmother, after 18 years there, was let go. And she was laid off. And when she was laid off, now, if she has the type of ownership, now she had skills. Now, if she only knew that she could take those skills and apply them to something that was her own, like maybe she just created business cards and a little website and got a number. And she actually went to all printing companies and helped them fix their machines. Like, make yourself an in demand individual.
Well, and even if you are working a job, like there's a stock market. There's real. You have to
True.
have some sort of extra something coming in to where you're not exchanging time for money constantly. Like we're just not like I think we're coming into an age to where like ignorance about stock, ignorance about businesses, ignorance about anything that you have a question about that you can look up on Google is like ridiculous at this point. You know what I mean? Like it's especially if you have kids, like you have to be able to diversify in some way. And let's take the mysticism out of like diversifying, like like no, like diversifying means you are just uh getting something from another source that is not necessarily your main source of income. So, you know, I would employ like what can you do? What can your hands do to earn an extra 50 or an extra $100 without you physically having to do it? And once you can see like, okay, well I can earn $50 without me actually having to work, then I think that that is going to change your perspective in your mind greatly. Um, so to kind of tie it all together, um, with the whole crab in a bucket analogy, if you are the main crab to get out the bucket, and let's just say that is you are the first person to start a business and it becomes successful. You're an athlete, you went to the NBA, you become pro, you're in stocks and you figure out how to make a lot of money. If you are that first crab to get out the bucket, my suggestion is like make it out of the bucket completely. Like be able to uh survive and thrive and get just when you're out of the bucket, like really get out of the bucket. And then when you go back to help the other crabs, like for example, I don't hear too many like really successful or rich people talk about crab in the bucket mentality. I only hear that from like more like the poor people, you know what I mean? Like people that don't have it like the means. Like that's what I hear. That's the only kind of talk that I hear that from. And I was thinking about like a Mark Cuban or somebody along those lines. Like there's no way somebody's gonna be able to pull him back into the bucket. Like it's just not possible. You know what I mean? Like so we want to get to a place to where it is impossible for me to go back to that bucket and be pulled into that bucket. And I think a lot of us get out of the bucket, but it is a high possibility that we're going to get pulled back in that bucket. So my advice would be,
Because you're trying to go back and save so many people so in the infancy of your success.
well, see, that's what I'm saying. Save
Yeah.
yourself and your
Have
family
to.
first.
Yeah.
Like, save them first. Figure out how to generate generational wealth with your family first. Like, at least do that with two generations. Like, our problem is where we're not saving ourselves or our family first, but we're trying to go save everybody else, and in return, nobody's getting saved.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's getting saved. It's okay. Like, and I think we need to hear it. Like, it's okay for us to get, like, for us to save ourselves first. Like, it's biblical. You know what I mean? The Bible say save, like help your family first. So save yourself, save your family first. Like, get out of the bucket, like, first. You know what I'm saying? And then once you're able to actually see, okay, well, I got things in place for my family, my kids, be working on your kids. And then by the time you go back to help the other crabs inside of the bucket, if we just want to put it in that terms, like, you, like, it's okay. Nothing that they're going to do, nothing that they're going to say is going to affect what you've already put in place for your family. So now you can help from a unbiased perspective. If something don't seem right, brother, this don't seem right, I'm out of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not finna be sad. I'm not, a lot of times our feelings get involved and we get played on the heartstrings. Like, brother, come on now, help me out.
Or
Brother,
like, oh, you done got you a little money and you too good. Like,
nah, like, brother,
don't fall into those feelings.
yeah, don't fall into that. I'm not helping you out because what you're doing is not, like, I can see that it's not, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have not put the work or the time or anything into this. You just think that I'm a bank, and I'm not. You know what I'm saying? And people who get caught up in the heartstrings end up doing it, and it ends up biting them on their behind. So get stable, get established first, and then go back to help your fellow mankind once you establish. It's like, let your feet be cemented in concrete. So then when you reach your hand to try and help somebody, it ain't quicksand. You know what I'm saying? Like, your house wasn't built on straw. They can just pop your feet right up out the straw, and then now you back. No, like, cement your base in concrete. So when you put your hand down, somebody yank you, somebody try to pull you to the side, man, you can get yanked, you can get pulled, but you not moving, you solid. You know what I mean? So be a crab that's solid. So, save yourself, save your family first. Get good grounding. Plant your feet in solid ground, concrete. And then once you do that, then go back to the neighborhood. Go however you want to do it. Go back to your family, however you want to do it. Then start showing them and taking them out of that situation and helping them establish concrete concrete results inside of their life. So that's how the cycle goes. But if you don't stop the bleeding with your family first, then it's gonna be a cycle of starting over every single generation. So somebody has to stop the bleeding. Stop the bleeding. How you stop the bleeding is you cover up the wound. And then once the wound gets covered up, what happens? It starts to heal. And once it starts to heal, it's a wrap. You know what I mean? Like, the wound is healed. You barely even see it. It leaves a tiny scar, but it's healed. So in your family line, first stop the bleeding. And once you stop the bleeding, that might be the first step for you. Like, you might be the first person to stop the bleeding, and then the second generation is the one that, your kids keeps the hand on the band-aid while it's healing. Then their kids are the ones that's able to kind of take their hands off the band-aid because they can see that it's, kind of healed, it's basically healed. And in their generation, it's just a scar there. You know what I mean? Like, that's how this has to be. Like, you have to be able to stop the bleeding. Once you stop the bleeding, you then have to put stuff in place to where it does not keep bleeding. So wealth is just for our communities. We just have to, like, if you are hearing my voice in the 21st century, you just have to stop the bleeding. Stop the bleeding. Whatever that looks like. I don't care what it is. Your main job in building wealth for the first step is to stop the bleeding, and then allow like that wound to heal. And over time, 4 or 5 generations, they're gonna be able to look back and be like, yo, like, my pop, you know what I'm saying? Like, he sacrificed my grandma. She did her thing, like, to where we didn't have to go through that. Like, we didn't have to stop the bleeding for them. You know what I'm saying? Every generation for our community, we have to stop the bleeding. And then if we don't stop the bleeding, then it just bleeds over into the next generation. So, you know, hopefully, you guys got something out of the podcast. I really like the concept. I really dislike the concept of crab in the buckets. I don't think that as a whole we're crab in the buckets. I just think that we're drowning and we're just trying to get air. And in the midst of us trying to get air, we end up pulling everything down around us. So if one of us can get out, cement their feet in concrete, then it's going to be so much more easier to be able to pull all the other crabs out of the bucket. And in the meantime, you're also helping them to cement their feet. So now it's just not one person trying to pull the crabs up out the bucket. It's a whole circle of people who have a solid foundation, and they all have their hands out. Imagine 12 people trying to pull everybody up as opposed to one. So we need more than one person, but one person has to stop the bleeding, put their feet in concrete, cement their place in history, make sure the family is good, and then we can go back. And then once you start teaching, then other people are going to be able to also assist you in that process of helping pull people up. So, guys, that's it. That's all we have for you for the podcast today. We hope that you enjoy it. Like I said, our prayers are still going out to people who are suffering. We really do, pray Godspeed that you guys recover from any loss that you have. We are very thankful for you guys. We are coming out with a new line of gear. It's gonna be more affordable for people. Man, and if you have any ideas about the podcast, just let us know. Send us an email, shoot us a message. If you want to be interviewed, also let us know. If you know anybody who would like to be on the podcast, also let us know, because we'll definitely be interested in talking with you. Until next time, and like I always say, kill the time clock and do not let the time clock kill you. See you next week.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, to keep up with all things TCK, follow us at Time Clock Killers on all social media platforms.